What is up, Letter Clumps? This is Antoine Wade, and in today's video, we are going to be discussing how you can get an internship even though you may have a low GPA. That's right, how you can get an internship even though you may have a low GPA. Welcome back to the Black Heights channel. We talk about all things related to the skill development in the IT sector. Now, before we get to the video, do me a stone cold favor and stomp that like button as it helps us grow the channel. And today's video is going to come from Owlsworth TV, another YouTuber who is an engineer major, and he is walking us through how you can get an internship even though your GPA may be low. If you are a science, technology, engineering, or math major, you may struggle your first year, your second year, because it's going to take you some time to get used to the studying, the classes, the concepts, and things like that. And your GPA may be low, but that still shouldn't stop you from seeking internships as much as you can in between your semesters, either in the summer or in the winter breaks. And Owlsworth TV is going to tell us how he was able to get an internship even though he had a 2.8 GPA. That's right, guys, a 2.8 GPA. Now let's get to the video.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Al in the building, and I'm back with another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys the story of how I was able to get an engineering internship with no experience and a 2.8 GPA. So I know a lot of people right now are probably going through the struggle of applying to so many different jobs and just getting rejected left, right, and center. So I just wanted to make this video to share my process of how I was able to get an engineering internship, the struggles that I went through, mistakes I made, and this advice. I hope this video is able to inspire just some form of hope to people going through the process of applying to jobs, because it's not easy, man. It's not easy. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first year is super important. Like, the first year, it's recommended that you get at least a 3.0 GPA, because that is what a lot of companies are going to use to be able to even determine if you're able to even apply. My first year, I ended up unfortunately getting a 2.8 GPA, which just absolutely sucked, because automatically right off the bat, as I'm trying to find an internship for my second year, I have a smaller job outlook because a lot of companies require at least a 3.0 GPA. My resume is already not super spectacular because this is my first year in college. And then
We're going to stop and break this down for a quick second, guys. And he said a couple things here. You know, companies want you to have a 3.0 GPA, and a lot of companies do want that. A lot of companies choose not to list what the GPA is. They just want really good candidates. But in order for you to be competitive, most companies are going to want you to have a 3.0 GPA. So you're going to want to keep your GPA as high as possible. So that means you're going to have to stay late at night in the library to get your studying done. Don't worry about all the extra partying and all the extra drinking and stuff like that when you're a freshman and sophomore, guys. Focus on your studies. Try to maintain your GPA so that you can get these sorts of internships. Again, they weed people out by your GPA. So try to keep your GPA up as much as possible, guys. The other piece of it that he actually said as well, too, is that, you know, he doesn't have the experience, and many of you aren't going to have the experience as well either, because you're going to be a freshman, a sophomore, and you're not going to really be able to get any IT jobs during your, high school years and things like that unless you know people. But he's absolutely right. With no experience, having a lower GPA is going to be that much more difficult for him to get an internship. But there is a way, and let him continue to teach us what that way is.
No experience. This is my first professional experience that I'm applying to, and I'm trying to get. So my basic plan was basically to apply to as many jobs as possible. And I couldn't be picky at all because, my GPA wasn't good. So I needed to make sure that I gave myself as many opportunities as I could to get an interview and get an internship.
Good point. Try to apply to as many jobs as possible. I use that method as well too, guys. The good thing about him is he's starting after his freshman year. I started my internship search going into my senior year after my junior year. So, I was already working in college. However, I wasn't working in my field, so I needed to get some experience in my field, and I had to do an unpaid internship. Once I did an unpaid internship, the sky was the limit. The unpaid internships did it for me. But something that he mentioned was that he applied to almost every job. I did the exact same thing, and there are methods behind this. And some people say don't apply for every job. I applied for CIO jobs, even though I wasn't a CIO. I applied for program managers, project managers, every sort of job out there so that I can at least get a call back. And I must say, I don't necessarily say my results. I would probably say out of 1,000 applications I filled out, I may have gotten total of maybe 20 sorts of responses during that time. And it was tough. It was very tough. It was eye-opening, and also at the same time, it was just, numbing. So, try to keep your GPA up, and you won't be in this position. I found myself in this position not because of my GPA, just because of my experience. I had one thing working against me. He had two things working against him.
Most people I used Indeed because of the amount of job openings that they have. Like, they have millions of job openings. And then another resource that I use a lot was this resource called Handshake, which basically, if you go to a university, especially based in the US, your school might use Handshake, which basically shows you which employers are hiring students directly from your school. And then my school also has this other resource called PAL. And so basically what PAL is, it's a database where we're able to rank different companies that our school has connections with, and we're able to rank them based off what companies we're most interested in and least interested in. And every week my school sends out our resumes to those employers. Also, we have...
That's dope. Indeed, PAL, and Handshake, or Handshake and PAL, I had no idea about. Indeed, it's been out there for a long time, but two good resources that you guys can use to find yourself an internship or a job is Handshake and PAL. See if your school has PAL. That's good information right here, guys, and try to use that information to try to get yourself an internship and get your resume out there as well.
I have career fairs at my school. Fall semester and spring semester, we have a big career fair where there's like several companies, like 250 companies. Applying through Indeed and company websites and Handshake absolutely did not work. I applied to over 200 companies. I didn't get one call back. It's either I got ghosted or I got rejected. So yeah, the career fair was also a waste of time. I went to the career fair at my school.
It wasn't the fact that he got ghosted. It was the fact that now companies have screening software that looks at a resume after you apply to it, and if you don't have your resume with certain keywords, the issue now is that companies have this really smart technology which looks at the job posting and then look at your resume and try to match it as much as possible. And if it is within a certain variance, it's going to allow your resume to get sent to the actual recruiter. And that's what I think his situation was, is his resume more than likely didn't match up to the positions that he was seeking, and it probably got kicked out. That's why he said out of the 200 or so positions that he applied for, he didn't get a call back for any of them. And during my time, it was probably the exact same. I said I probably applied for 1,000, maybe I got 20 answer backs or something like that. That technology was around during that time, but it wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. So, I'm not trying to say I'm old, but what I'm basically saying is that it gets smarter and smarter, and it becomes a lot harder for you to get your resume through to somebody using online applying and applications, guys.
And I didn't get any follow-ups. The most effective resource that seemed to be working was definitely PAL, and I was able to get 3 interviews through that resource. So shout out to my school.
Good to know.
Interview 1 was with a really small company. I think they had about 20 to 30 employees, and they worked in the water treatment industry. And the interview, for the most part, it was really relaxed, really chill. They asked me mostly questions about my resume, and then also behavioral based questions like what I would do in this situation, and times where I exhibited, like leadership, problem solving, stuff like that. After this interview, I felt pretty good. I thought I had a good chance of getting this job. But unfortunately, it's never that easy. So unfortunately, I got the rejection email 1 week later that I didn't get the job. I was sad, I'm not gonna lie. I cried a little bit, but yeah, that sucked, obviously, getting that first rejection, because I was just thinking like, wow, will I even be able to get another interview? 2 weeks later, I got a different email from a different company saying that they wanted me to come on site for an interview. So interview 2 was with a big international company, BASF, which if you're based in Germany, you might know this company. This is a big specialty chemicals producer. So they hire a lot of chemical engineers. And this was actually my second interview with BASF. I remember I had an interview with them my freshman year after applying to them. So this interview was totally different from the first one. It was a panel interview. So 4 people were interviewing me at once, and they were just shooting questions left, right, and center. I was not prepared at all. I remember one specific question that they asked me. I was just sitting there for a minute thinking like, wow. And then finally I came up with a lie. And I'm pretty sure they could tell that I was lying. I knew it was going to be a miracle if I got that job. They got back to me within the same 24 hours. They told me that they were not moving forward with me. So obviously that sucked, you know. Rejection it really starts to eat at you. You think that, why am I really not good enough? Like, what is the problem? But there is light always at the end of the tunnel. So I ended up getting.
So let me just talk about this, guys, is, you know, you're applying for jobs and you're going to get the interview. And here's the thing, right? This is practice. That's the practice. The interview sessions that you're going to be in, no matter what, how much practice you've done before, you're not really going to get a good amount of exposure to understanding how to answer interview questions unless you're really live into it, and unless you have, you know, somebody who you can work with at your school that really conducts these sort of real life situation interviews, right? Because each company does things a little bit different and their people are different, right? So no interviews are going to be the exact same. But you know, it doesn't matter how well you feel in an interview. A lot of the times you may think that you have the job and it's going to come back that you didn't get the job. That's happened multiple times for me. I thought some of my best interviews I was going to get the job. And it happened that my worst interview, I got the job. So it was the complete opposite, right? It was interesting how that plays out. But, you know, one thing that I would tell you all is don't get discouraged when you're going through these interviews and you don't get the job, because it's all part of the process, guys.
Another email a month later from a different company that wanted me to come on site for an interview. This company was a medium-sized company, about 100 employees, and it was an engineering consulting firm. And they wanted me to interview for a project management position. But this time I really took my time practicing behavioral based questions and really just making sure that I was prepared for this interview. Overall, the interview went super good. After the interview, I knew I had a good chance getting this job because they gave me a tour of the company. I got to meet a lot of the different employees, and it just generally seemed like they were really interested in, you know, me working there, and they seemed like they really liked me. So long story short, third time is a charm. I ended up getting the job at this company, and thank God, you know, that was one of the happiest days of my life. I want you guys to notice some common themes that happened throughout the course of all those interviews and whatnot. So especially with chemical engineering, and especially since it was my first job and my first internship experience, a lot of the interviews weren't really as technical. So if you're in like your first couple of years of school, or like you haven't really had any experience in the industry, do not worry at all about having a technical interview. Most likely they're going to ask you behavioral based questions, and they're going to ask you questions about your resume. So make sure that you know your resume inside and out, because obviously they'll be able to tell if you're lying about certain things that you put on your resume.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. As you are, you know, entering your sophomore year, the summer after your freshman year, when you're applying for these internships, more than likely you're not going to have a technical interview. When I applied for my internships, or applied for the job that I was actually going for full time after, before I had graduated, that I was going to start after I graduated, they asked me tons of technical questions. And I think that was one of the reasons why I actually blacked out, was because I wasn't used to that. In all the other interview questions or the other interviews, I didn't have that many technical questions thrown at me, right? So as he mentioned, as you are earlier on in the process trying to seek internships, you're not going to get as many technical questions because you haven't even experienced that yet. You think about if you're an MIS major or a computer science major, you really haven't started to dive deep into the coding and the technical elements of your degree. You're just going through the basic educations where the school is trying to weed you out to determine if you are a good fit for that major or not. So again, guys, just on your early parts of seeking a job as an early college university student, you won't get as many technical questions as you would if you were a junior or senior applying for a full-time position after you graduate, etc.
You can see my school was able to get me all my interviews. If you can, try to rely on the connections that your school has, alumni that they've hired, companies that hire people from your school. That is such a good way to get your foot in the door. If my school didn't have connections like that with local employers, most likely I probably wouldn't have gotten these 3 interviews, and I probably wouldn't have even been able to get an internship.
That's a very good point as well too, and I am obviously stopping this because he's making some very good point. It's a well thought out video, and he's actually telling the truth a lot of that. Try to leverage the people that have gone to your school to seek internships and to seek full-time positions, because they're going to be able to get you in. They can vouch for you because they've gone to your school. You have that connection. That's the whole part that people always talk about, your network, right? Your network is your net worth. When you go to universities, that is part of a group, that is part of a club. Leverage your group, leverage the club to help you get your foot in the door. And as you can see, his university seems to have a very strong network to allow him to get to the positions that he was actually able to get, the interviews that he was actually able to get, and he was able to leverage that to get hired. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful example.
I think the biggest mistake I made throughout this process that probably would have saved me a lot of time and probably would have got me more interview opportunities was not tailoring my resume at all. So this was a super big mistake. I used the same resume to apply to every single job. Try to make sure that you try to switch up your resume at least a little bit. Some roles will have target keywords that they're looking for in your resume, and they'll filter out your resume if your resume doesn't have those keywords. Another mistake I made was just having no direction at all as to the type of company that I was trying to work for. I just wanted to get my foot in the door, and I feel like if I would have had a direction of what type of company I was looking for, I could have even further improve my resume and submit better quality applications. Try to have an idea of what type of company or industry you're trying to work for. Are you trying to work for maybe like a tech-based company, or are you trying to work for maybe a traditional engineering company? Try to have an idea of what you are looking for in an internship. So yeah, you guys, that is how I was able to get.
He brought up some really good points, guys. Try to make sure you tailor your resume to the position. And again, as I mentioned in this video earlier, that the sophistication behind the software who accepts these jobs and applications, they are so smart, and they have AI and all sorts of machine learning technology to be able to read your resume and be able to kick it off to the side if it doesn't hit a certain variant, right? So you need to really make sure that you're adapting your resume to the specific job that's actually posted on there, even matching it to the exact keywords that is listed on the job description or in the job description, guys. That is a very, very good point that he made. I would also say is this, that he said is try to make sure that you understand who it is that you want to work for, guys, because as he mentioned, he was just trying to get his foot in the door, and he was just sending out his resume. I was the exact same way. I sent it out 1,000 times, and again, I did not tailor my resume because nobody ever gave me that. Nobody ever told me that, right? I was just going off the cuff, doing it myself, and I didn't spend a lot of time in a career fair center or anything like that. I didn't go to any of the career fairs at all, or work with the undergraduate council at the schools that help with the job fairs and the career fairs and stuff like that. I didn't work with any of those guys. I just did it on my own, and I learned from that experience. And as he mentioned, it could be a waste of your time. 1,000 resumes to only 20 callbacks or 20 touch points. That's not a lot. I'm batting average. It's horrible. His seems to have been horrible as well too. So try to learn from those mistakes from us, guys. and make sure you tailor your resume, but also understand what company that you want to work for, so that you can really start to learn more about that company, what it is that you are interested in, how they conduct business, and that's going to allow you to be able to talk to the recruiters and talk to people who work for that company, and they can give you insights on how you can get in. Guys, I hope you have liked this video and have learned something. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like this sort of content. And if you want to be notified when I drop that new content, do me a favor and hit that notification bell. And guys, don't forget to leave me a comment on any of the points that I have made in this video. And until next time, y'all, peace.